Next up, we're going to glue the parts together. So I've got the front and the back center pieces, which are good to go. I'll double check the ramp again one more time, but it should be fine. If I needed to fine tune it a little bit, I would take a sanding block, hard sanding block. This one's MDF, and just very carefully sand that. Sometimes that can help, but I think this one will be fine. The front, of course, not a big deal. That's just clearance. I did on the sides of these, they were a little bit, dirty from handling and stuff. So I just very lightly, I think, with 180 grit paper, I sanded those just to scuff them up a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside of the sides here. Now, you want to be really careful you don't round anything. And this doesn't, well, actually, maybe it does have a little bit of snipe at one end. So I might take, in fact, I probably won't sand it, but if there was no snipe, I would just lightly sand this. Once again, just to kind of scuff up the surface, clean it up. But because I do feel a little bit of snipe there, I'm going to just take a couple of very light passes to make sure that's nice and flat. Because when I glue this up, I don't want any gaps due to snipe or anything like that. So I'll go ahead and get those ready to go. I've got cawls ready that are about the same size as the parts. You're going to want those to help with the glue up. To plane this, I don't want to do it in my tail vise because this is thin. It can flex a little bit, so I really want it supported well. So I've got a planing stop here, and this, of course, is firmly supported by my bench. So I'm just going to take a couple of just very light passes here. There we go. Make sure that's nice and flat, and I don't, because I can tell it misses and then it starts to cut, so it tells me there's a little bit of snipe there. There we go. So I put it together for a fit check just to make sure everything looks good, and my seams look better now. They're a little tighter than they were before, so I like that. The cross pin is a little too hard to turn, so I'm gonna sand those tenons down just a touch more, and then we're ready to go. The other thing I'm checking, I want to make sure that the distance between the shoulders of my cross pins, isn't keeping the sides from coming together. I can see just a slight gap. I can just kind of get my fingernail in between the shoulder and the side there. So that looks great. So just a little tweaking on the tenon and I'll be ready to glue up. All right, it took a few tries, but I've got my clamp situation worked out. I was having a hard time getting these clamps on and then configuring it so I could get these other clamps on. So I've got a board across the bottom here to keep the bottom of the plane nice and coplanar. So I'll put that on first. And notice it's sitting up on a couple of spacers so I can get the clamps underneath it. And then once those are on, I'll put the cawls on, and I've got some spring clamps to hold the cawls temporarily. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 clamps going this way. So I think I'm in good shape. I've gone through that 1 or 2 times now, and I think I'm ready to go. So I'll take it apart, put the glue on, and we'll put it together one last time. All right, before I start, I did redraw the lines on here just so I know where to put the glue. So I think we're ready to roll here. So I want to keep the glue away from the opening there, because I don't want a lot of squeeze out going inside there. I can get it off, but it's just easier not to. So I'll keep a little bit away from my lines there. I want glue on both surfaces. Yeah, it sure would have been nice not to have those holes there. There's extra holes there. So I'm just moving pretty quickly here. Want to make sure I've got the whole surface wet with glue. Same thing here, stay a little away from my edge. I'm not normally a acid brush user for this, for spreading glue, but in this situation, this works great. I just don't like it when you have to reach down into, say, a mortise or something like that. Oh, now, don't forget the cross pin. Now I put these clamps opposite each other because this thing is kind of balanced on that beam, and if I put them both on the same side it would tip over, so this keeps things on an even keel there. So now put these, hold them with the spring clamps. Same thing here, so I'm switching back and forth, left and right. Don't need those anymore. So this one is kind of near the mouth, but down low. Now you might, like right here, I see a little gap there, so I'm going to clamp up there just to get that snug, and then I'll move the clamp down to the middle there. Okay, make sure everything's nice and tight. Once again, double checking the cross pins there. Now I got more squeeze out in there than I was hoping for, but that's easily dealt with a chisel. I can get in there. So I'm done with these. These aren't doing anything anymore, so I'm going to take those off. Just making it a little harder to handle. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll start flattening and shaping.